Hello, everybody. I am Tom Hazard from Brandcasters, Podetize.com, and the Feed Your Brand podcast. And this is our weekly private client only webinar. And today is it's that time of the month where I talk about something on the tech side of things. I don't want to get too techy. We have a lot of new starting, podcasters, aspiring podcasters who are just getting started. And I thought today would be a good time to talk about the tech of recording, and in particular about the different options you have for recording and some of the pros and cons, and also the some of the decisions that you may need to consider for how you record, because there are many different tools available. It's very different today than it was many years ago when I started podcasting, even though the podcasting industry is fairly young, like 14, 15 years in reality. So that's not very old, but things move very fast in the tech world of podcasting. And there have been a lot of changes. So I want to talk about that. So let's talk about audio. All right. And hey, Whitney, just joining us. We're talking about tech today and best practices for recording. And we're going to talk about pros and cons regarding how best to record, depending on whether you're looking at recording audio only or if you're going to record as video the way I am right now. So, all right. So let's get into that. You have more choices than ever. And that's part of why it can be so confusing. What is the best equipment to record with? What's the best software to use? And so let's start quickly right there. Software wise, is that when I started podcasting, I bought like $1,100 worth of equipment, and I've got it here. In fact, my microphone is actually still connected into it and then connected to my computer, and so I can record a very high quality audio just here in my, recording space. But it's a bit overkill by today's standards, really. And no way do you need to buy $1,100 worth of equipment today. There are some situations where it's true. I could record a higher quality audio than maybe many of you could, because you don't have a big mixing board like I have over here to my side here, a big mixing board. But the reason I did that is because Tracy and I are co-hosts, and in the very beginning, we were recording most episodes with just the two of us, sometimes a guest over the internet, but a lot more episodes that were just the two of us. And Tracy is a louder speaker than I am. My level, the level of volume of my voice is a bit lower than hers, which is maybe about here. And her voice would be dominant in the conversation, and that wouldn't sound very good as a listener. So we use this mixing board to bring me up and her down a little bit, so that our relative volume levels of each of us are similar, which is, ideal for having co-hosts and recording. We also recorded, for the most part, offline to a digital audio recorder. This is a lot of different equipment to coordinate. And, there was a way to run the audio from the computer from our guest when we had a remote guest, coming all the way through the mixing board and then into this digital audio recorder. And it was a lot. It was pretty complicated. The quality was the best it could be at the time. I have to tell you, these kind of digital audio recorders record in a format called WAVE, which is a very high quality audio format, and it records very large size files, which are again the best quality. And if you're really doing ultimately just the best, you want the best quality possible, that's what you can do. But the reality is, at the end of the day, after it gets edited and exported for distribution in the podcast world, it becomes an MP3 file. And the quality of an MP3 file is limited. It can only be so much. So, you might think, well, it's a bit overkill. I could just plug a USB microphone into my computer and I can record with a simple program. There are a lot of different programs you can use to record your audio. And you're right, there are. I mean, some very simple ones. Even on your phone, there's a voice memo app on my iPhone that I can plug my microphone into. And with that, a good quality microphone, that may be perfectly good to record your audio. So if you're just recording yourself or you're traveling, you want to record an episode that's just you, or you could even use Zoom over your phone if you need to do that. So the really complicated setups for recording audio are really not necessary for most people. The only time we set people up with a digital audio recorder, and it's different than the one I just showed you, we'll set them up with something called a Zoom H6, is if the majority of their interviews are going to be conducted with their guests in the same room and they want to record multiple tracks. And the reason you may want to do that, meaning a separate audio file that gets recorded for me, the host, and for you, the guest. And the reason is, when you're editing, if both of you happen to say something at the same time, if you've only got one file being recorded for both of you together, there's really nothing we can do in editing to fix that where you were both speaking at the same time. However, if you do have separate tracks where each of you is being recorded on a separate track, well, let's say, one of you is speaking, the other was trying to interject, but the main person who was speaking kept talking. Well, we can actually get rid of that audio of the person that was trying to interject. And to the rest of the world, where they hear the podcast, they'll never know they ever said anything when we have separate tracks, meaning that my audio, when I'm speaking, you'll hear me. But when my guest is speaking, you'll hear silence. And the same thing for their audio track. When they're speaking, you'll hear them. And when I'm speaking on that other file, you would hear nothing. In editing, that's like the ideal situation. Now, back in the beginning, when we started a bunch of years ago, there were very few programs, software programs that recorded on your computer that would do that and that would do it well. But now, even a tool like Zoom, what I'm using right now, Zoom allows you to, and there is a way you can set its settings, and it's in the recording settings. In the Mac, it's called Preferences. In Windows, it's their settings. There's a recording section or tab, and when you go in there, you'll see this checkbox next to something that says record a separate audio file for each participant. And if you have that checked, anybody who is allowed to, is invited to come on and speak, it will record a completely separate audio file for them. And it's like I just described to you. So Zoom, when they added that made it much more easy for people to record higher quality and edit and publish higher quality audio without needing really complicated equipment like a mixing board or a digital audio recorder. However, for some people, it's easier. Like I have a relatively new podcaster who's in the setup process now, and the majority of his interviews are going to be conducted in person in his office, and he wants the best quality possible and wants to have separate tracks. And so he's got multiple microphones and a digital audio recorder that records a separate track for each microphone. And that works great. Let's talk about audio. Obviously, when you're starting a podcast, if you just want to record audio, that's a lot easier. You don't have to worry about your appearance. And when Tracy and I first started, she wanted nothing to do with recording video. Now, keep in mind, this is before Facebook Live and the social media incentives, I'll put it. I'll describe it. The social media incentives for going live on Facebook like we are right now. And I think most of you probably know, but just in case, when you make a normal written post on your Facebook feed, it will be seen by about 1% to 2% of the people that follow you. The more that it gets liked and shared, more of your friends on Facebook will see it. But it's still relatively low numbers when it's just a written post. When you post a video, that'll be seen by more of your audience initially, somewhere in the maybe 10 to 13%. And again, the more people that share it and like it, the algorithm decides to show it to more of your friends on Facebook. But when you go live with Facebook Live, like we are now, and I'm using Zoom and I went live to Facebook, so we'll to our private group. So this is still a private client-only coaching call, but it went out to our private Brandcasters group. That will be pushed to just about everybody who is a member of the Brandcasters group. So you would get a notification in your feed that Tom is live or Brandcasters is live on Facebook. Do you want to see it? Same thing when you go live to a video. When you go live to not a private group, just on your Facebook feed, when you go live, your live feed will be pushed to the majority of your listeners. Now, in the very early days of Facebook Live, they were pushing it to 100% of your friends and followers. I believe that what I've read is telling me that has changed a bit, and it's not necessarily going out to everybody, but it is still the method that will get the most exposure. You will reach the majority of your friends on Facebook if you go live. So those are some reasons why now we have more motivation to consider video than we did a number of years ago. So in the beginning, Tracy wanted nothing to do with it. She's like, my hair is going to have to be just right, and my makeup's going to have to worry about what I'm wearing. That's true. I mean, I think me as a guy, I care less, honestly, I don't wear makeup, and my hair, I don't have that much of it anyway. I keep it pretty darn short. And my clothes, yeah, maybe I could be wearing a nicer shirt, but you certainly, if you're going to record a bunch of episodes in a row, you don't want it to look like you recorded them in a row. Like I'll batch my episodes. If I'm not going live and I'm still recording video, I will record back to back to back a whole bunch of episodes, and I will change my shirt in between every one because I don't want it to look like I just recorded a whole batch of episodes at once. And that's a recommendation from a lot of people when you record video, or if you're doing a course series, a training video series, they'll always recommend you bring multiple outfits or shirts, depending on how much of you is going to be in the scene, that you can, change it and make it look like these are each recorded at different times. When you're recording video, you want to consider light. And those of you, I know a couple of you were on right at the top of the hour when I started this Zoom broadcast before I was live on Facebook. And my light wasn't on. And I had, an assistant here in the office go and turn on that light. Lighting is something you need to consider, as is the background. You can see behind me now, I don't like that it's kind of at an angle. I rearranged my recording space and I haven't quite tweaked it to be perfect yet. Ideally, Podetize, the background would be straight across the top of the screen and not at an angle. I got to work on it, but at least I've got an intentional, deliberate background. That's really important if you're going to record video. So definitely a lot more to consider when you're recording video than audio. But the good news is the tech has gotten a lot simpler, a lot easier to use. The capabilities are better. And with a good quality USB microphone and a good laptop that has, it's relatively new, within a couple of years, 3 maybe at most. When you start getting older than that and your operating system maybe isn't updated and you've got so many files on it that you don't have a lot of free hard disk space, or maybe your RAM isn't as low, I find all these software companies keep making updates to their software that requires more system resources. So the older it gets, the more tricky or trouble you might have. But as long as you've got a decent, up-to-date laptop and a good USB microphone, so many wonderful recording tools available today, whether you're going to record video or just audio, you really don't need high-tech and expensive equipment. I mean, your computer would be the most expensive thing in this equation, right? So that's a great place that we're at today, that we have so many more options than we did. So that's really what I wanted to get into today is kind of a tech focus, and we have a lot of new customers who are just starting podcasts now, that I wanted to talk about that environment or the equipment rather. And your environment, of course, I think plays a bigger role in the quality of your recordings when you're using less expensive equipment, right? I think the environment's really important. You want to have a room that has a lot of sound absorbing surfaces. And I took a deeper dive into your recording environment in a past call, like maybe a month or two ago. I'm not going to go heavy into that today. If you have a question, feel free to ask it. But there is a recording of that call that you can see that's been published, not only in this Facebook group, the Brandcasters Facebook group, but I think also within our help resources section. And if you have trouble finding it, reach out to us and we'll make sure you get a link to it if you need it. But your environment and will play a big role. The microphone, obviously, if we provided you your microphone, we provided you a fantastic microphone. It's this one here, which is by Audio Technica. It's a commercial version of one of the most popular mics that's out there. So, and when we do it, do we have an example? Do you have one of the mics with a mic block on it, Alexandra, that I could show?
I do not.
When we, Tracy took hers with her. Tracy's on the road and took hers with her. Thought I had one around here too. Mine's downstairs. All right. Anyway. All right. Well, we'll get one to show you. But when we give you your mic, we brand it with your logo for your show, which is pretty cool. And then when you do record video, and I should be using mine here, but I used it in another room recently, that you're always branding your show. Of course, I'm branding it with the background, but you can't always do that if you're in a different location, and your microphone will help you do that. So anyway, thank goodness for software and modern technology that's made this really easy, where you don't need to go into a recording studio. Now, I'll tell you, we do have a few customers who are recording every episode in a recording studio. For whatever reason, they like that environment. They don't mind paying a little extra for it. And it's really going to be recording incredibly high quality audio, maybe overkill really for publishing as a podcast. I think it's more appropriate, or maybe that's not the best word to use, but I think it's more important, let's say, to use a recording studio if you're going to record like an ebook series or something. Here's my mic. I'm going to show you. So for instance, when we ship you a mic, it'll have your cover art on it, which here's a new podcast coming out later this month in August called Purchasing Truth with Bill Sturley. It's going to be a really fun one. And then that's my show, Feed Your Brand. So we create a version of your cover art that's in this proportion and put it on the mic and ship your mic with all that when you launch a podcast with us. So in any case, I was saying the technology has gotten so much better and made it a lot easier for us. Oh, the recording studio, that's what I was saying. So recording studio, I mean, if you have one, some of our customers, they're so serious about using their podcast to market and grow their business, and they're recording so many different episodes every week, like literally multiple episodes a week, some of them doing as many as 5 a week they're publishing, and recording so often, they've built a recording studio into their office space so that they have the best environment possible. That's awesome if you can do that. But again, not really necessary. Scott Carson has popped on here to our Zoom group, and he's a great example of somebody who's recording, 3 to 5 episodes a week, and he doesn't have a special recording studio. He has an intentional place that he does it because he's recording video also. He has a background that is, promoting his brand everywhere, but is not, doesn't have a special recording studio. And I would actually say the microphone he's using probably isn't the highest quality. He's going to not like me saying that, but he's got a lot of background noise going on there. We fix it as much as we can in editing, but it's the content that is the most important thing. It is part of what I want to mention today. Regardless of your equipment and your environment, if you've got good content you're recording, people want to hear it, and you're going to get a lot of plays. And Scott just had, in July, he got 35,000 plays of his episodes in the month of July. That was a record for him. Congratulations, Scott. Very exciting. And he's killing it, marketing, growing his business that way. So from a tech perspective, it's gotten a lot easier. And that's really, I guess, what I wanted to share today. A lot of people have apprehension about doing video and having to do it. And I would say you don't have to do it. You know what? Start with audio. It's always easier. And then do the occasional video recording, do the occasional live stream, get used to it, get your feet wet, get comfortable with it, get your lighting going, so that you have a good quality light. And Tracy would say, well, now I'm going to do this regularly. I got to go and have my hair blown out, before I do a recording. Well, some of them she may want to, but all of them really she doesn't need to. People want the content. So that's, I guess, as far as tech is concerned, that's what I really wanted to share with you today. And I guess I want to open this up to any questions anybody might have specifically about their tech, their equipment, their environment that we can help them with. I know, like I said, we have a lot of new people right now. And Scott is commenting that he needs to upgrade his Blue Yeti mic. Yes, I would agree. The Blue Yeti mic is one that was, hey, Mitch, thank you for the wave. The Blue Yeti mic is one that was considered the standard in podcasting years ago. And it is a microphone that's marketed intentionally for podcasting, but I find it, and I did a lot of testing recently of mics, looked at them all again, and I found the Blue Yeti to be not a very good quality microphone. The only thing it's really good for is if you are recording a bunch of people in a room and you're only going to have one microphone. The Blue Yeti, it picks up pretty much everything in the room. That's part of why I don't like it, because you get a lot of background noise, a lot of noise in general. But if you've got a situation like we were with Scott last December and did a live episode from his location in Texas, we were in a hotel, actually a large open space. And with the three of us talking, the Blue Yeti would be ideal for that situation, because you're going to pick up everybody. A microphone like this is great for a single person, but when I turn my head, you'll notice the volume goes down and then it comes back in here. It's a little louder. I turn my head and it goes down again. So when you have people sitting back far away from it, this might not be the best mic for that situation. But in general, I wouldn't use the Blue Yeti. It's old technology. The microphone that we send to people, that we stock, is an Audio Technica AT2005. It's a commercial one. We stock them. You can buy it on Amazon. It's available. I think it's about $80. Excuse me. So not a killer price-wise. Let's see. And then Scott also, funny thing, he says, that's why God made baseball caps, so we don't have to worry about our hair. Yes, easier for maybe men than women, Scott. I love that. Yes. Okay, and I've got, we have a question from Facebook we're going to get to. But first, Mitch Russo asked a question. I have a question about headphones. Mitch, let me see. If you don't mind coming on, I'll let you talk and you can ask it. What do you have on that, Mitch?
A quick question. I noticed that people are using like the ATL 2100 along with a pair of earbuds for listening.
Right, like this maybe.
Right. And I have used Bose headsets for many of my recordings, but I stopped using them recently and I was told that there's no difference in sound quality. The only reason I was wearing the headphones before was to prevent leakage from my speakers back into the microphone. What is your thoughts on that?
Really good question, Mitch. In the earlier days of our podcast recording experience, we were using Skype as a tool to record most interviews before Zoom was as mature as it is today. And especially with Skype and some of the tools that recorded, we did have problems with leakage. And we always made sure we were using a headset of some kind, so that, and here, everybody, just so you understand, the concept is if you're recording over your computer without using a headset, and so you're listening to your guest from the speaker built into your laptop. But even if you're speaking into a higher quality microphone like this, or even if you're not, the very sort of speakerphone nature of a computer and how it works, there was a tendency for the sound of your guest to come up through your speaker from your PC and then also get recorded back into your microphone. And it would create a bit of an echo. and that was a bad situation. The way you eliminated that was to use a headset to separate what you hear from what your microphone can hear. Now, Mitch, I've found as software's improved, this happens less and less. In fact, I think Scott Carson records the majority of his episodes. He doesn't use a headset. He's listening over his PC speaker, and he's still using a mic, and we don't see that echo. So I think that it's less of a concern than it used to be, but we still do recommend people listen with some sort of a headset, whether it's earbuds or not. And the microphones like this Audio Technica and even the, well, most of them have a headphone port. Let's see, right over there. So that if you plug a headphone into this, you can hear your guest. It's coming through your computer, and it's separating what your mic hears from what you hear. I still think that's best practice, but I find it's not completely necessary in a lot of situations. Is that helpful, Mitch?
Yes, very much so. Thank you.
Sure. So let's see. We have some more questions. What would you recommend for the microphone? So yeah, I said that AT2100. Do I know where you can get a cone of silence, Paul? Well, no, that'd be awesome. But you can set up an environment in your home or in your office that is in better condition for recording, where you have a lot of soft surfaces. I would recommend a room that has either wall-to-wall carpeting, or you want to get a thick area rug and put one down. And then if you've got curtains you can pull across windows, that will help. Think about hard surfaces are not your friend. And the best way to test this out is do a test recording. Set up your equipment wherever you want to record, do a test recording and listen to it, and really listen to the background noise. How much echo is there, and have other people listen to it. Send a clip to us. We'll listen to it and give you some feedback. So I'd recommend you do that. Cone of silence would be awesome. You can really if you have a place you're gonna record often, you can set that environment up to be ideal and not bounce a lot of sound. I don't know if I've done a tech call on this, but I have done a video. I've recorded a video. So Tim Bush, one of our brandcasters who is watching on Facebook, has asked, how do you go live on Facebook from Zoom? I actually do have a video that I've recorded as a tutorial on how to do that. And we can, Alexandra, can you maybe find that help resources post about recording on Zoom? It's out there that has Zoom, you go live on? I did, okay. Yes, on the more recent one. Yeah, Alexander will try to put a link in the comments on Facebook, and I'll see if we can okay, she's gonna give it to me so I can put it in the chat here on Zoom as well, for those of you that are watching live on Zoom. So you cannot go live on Facebook with the free Zoom account, Tim. That's one thing you need to know. You have to upgrade to a paid account, but it's not very expensive. And then you can either go live on Facebook or YouTube Live. Scott Carson has a lot of experience at this, and he's chiming in. So what you do is, and those of you, there were 2 or 3 of you that were on here live. I think Emma Lou and Vera, maybe Paul, were on here right from the beginning when I started the Zoom call today. And you have to start the Zoom call first. So I did that. And then there is a place at the bottom of your screen. There's 3 dots in the Zoom window that says more, and you click that, and then it has a selection to go live on Facebook, and you actually just click that. And what it does is it opens up your default web browser. For me, that's Google Chrome. And here, everybody, I am, wait, I have to put this to all attendees. I'm pasting in the link to our video, recording training video for Zoom, with actually demos how to go live on Facebook. Okay, and Alexander's pasting that link on Facebook right now. But what it does is you leave Zoom. And so I told everybody, because they were there, a few of you were there early, I said, hey guys, just hang on a minute, because I got to go live on Facebook. And the reason I had to do that is it actually it opens up your browser, or a new tab in a browser if it's open, takes you away from Zoom. So I'm not seeing who's there and what's happening. And then it brings you into Facebook where it says start a live stream, and it gives you a little box where you say, well, where do you want to do it? Do you want to post it to your timeline? And in my case, I wanted to post it into our private Brandcasters Facebook group because this is for clients only. And so I had to select that group, and then it opens up a window where I have to enter a title and a description of the post on Facebook, and then click go. And then it then starts bringing you live on Facebook, and then you jump back to Zoom. Now my Zoom window here right now in the upper right corner where it says I'm recording this for those that are not watching live, it has the place where you can pause or stop the recording, which I don't want to do, but it also has a status button with a big red live on Facebook indication. So you know you're live on Facebook. Now there is a little delay between those of you listening on Zoom and those that are watching out on Facebook of 10 maybe 15 seconds, but it's live on Facebook until you stop it. And you can actually stop the live from Facebook and still be in Zoom and still conducting your Zoom meeting if you only want to go live for a portion of the meeting, or you can end the meeting and it will also end it will also then end the Zoom. So let's see. So, and then Scott Carson's making another great point. So Zoom, of course, records everything for you, right? And I have my Zoom set up that every time I start one of these webinar sessions, it's automatically set to record it. And that's very important because there have been times earlier on in my podcasting career when I forgot to hit the record button. And boy, is that ugly, especially if you've done it with a guest. And you can't convince that guest to do it all over again. It's a big facepalm moment. Highly recommend whatever recording software you're going to use, especially if you're going to use Zoom, you set it to automatically record. And if you don't want to record a session that you start, you just hit the stop button and stop recording. So that's easy enough. But Scott says that live sharing to Facebook or YouTube has saved him when he forgot to hit the record button in Zoom. And that's true because I'm going live with this on Facebook. When it's done and the post, I think it like configures itself and it's not immediately available once I stop it, but 5 or 10 minutes later it is. You can go into your own Facebook account and download that recording, that video right out of Zoom, or you can download it right out of Facebook, or download it right out of YouTube if you've gone live to YouTube. So it works as a backup recording. I love that. I think that's a very good point, Scott. Thank you. Very important to realize that, because worst thing in the world is losing a recording, especially if you had it with a guest. I prefer the Zoom recording, though. Keep in mind, if you're going to download the YouTube recording or the Facebook recording, you're not going to get separated audio tracks for all participants. Only Zoom is going to do that. So I would suggest do yourself a favor and set Zoom to record automatically. And make sure you've set it to properly check that box to record a separate track for each participant. Any other questions on Facebook, Alexandra?
No.
All right. Anybody else on live on Zoom have a question or a comment? This is your time. Okay.
David Yu on file.
Good question. So David Yu, relatively new Brandcaster on Facebook, asking if you're doing a Zoom session and you're recording it, if your computer crashes, does it save the recording? Really good question. My understanding, Zoom is pretty darn good at being able to recover recordings, even if you have a crash in the middle. However, if you know that your computer is perhaps unstable, or the software, for whatever reason, the Zoom software is unstable on your system, I would highly recommend you use the cloud recording option, because Zoom gives you a couple of different ways to record. And this is where tech tools like this can get really confusing, especially for new people. And I know it can seem overwhelming. Please, by all means, reach out to us if you have questions about this stuff, because we do know it, and we'll get you where you need to be with as painlessly as possible. But Zoom gives you an option to record on your local computer, or to record in the cloud. Keep in mind, when you're doing a Zoom recording, you're connected to the internet. It really, you need to be if you're connecting with anybody to record them as a guest. So if you select the cloud recording option, everything's being recorded in the cloud. And even if your computer crashes, it's whatever you did record is going to be there in the cloud. I tend to like the local recording option because it does give you some more choices. I don't think the cloud recording option lets you record a separate audio track for each participant. Do you remember that, Alexandra? If the cloud recording lets you record multiple audio tracks, I don't think it does either. Yeah. So if you are recording on your local computer, you get the option to do those. Record a separate audio track for each participant. I don't think cloud recording lets you do that, but better to have some recording than none at all, right? So I know that with certain sessions, certain lives that we do tend to cloud record versus record locally. I think that's really up to you and your personal preference. But if you have an unstable computer, probably cloud recording would be your friend and probably a better choice. And another example of how Zoom has become such a versatile tool, it's really become a standard. I think most of our clients that are recording guests remotely are using Zoom. Some people are using Squadcast. That really still only records audio, not video. It's a great tool otherwise. You get to see your guest in a thumbnail, but it's not recording the video. So if you want to record the video, you really don't want to consider that tool right now. I think you can record both cloud and local, can't you? I think you can. I don't know. Ms. Scott, maybe you know that one. I think you can, but I don't know that I've done that. So, all right. So I hope this is helpful. I know Scott and Mitch are very seasoned podcasters with a lot of experience. Thank you for participating on this, which is, I think it's good for everyone to get caught up on the latest software options and some of the tech, but you guys certainly are very seasoned podcasters, and maybe some of this is redundant for you. So thank you for your patience and thanks for participating regardless. Let's see. Mitch, you asked a question about headphones, and, we have a microphone that we've developed. It's not on the market yet, but it records to an SD card right within the microphone. And I'm remembering that we're actually including a pair of earbuds, good quality ones, in the box with the microphone. So we still think it's a good idea to use them, best practice, but is probably less necessary today than it was, as we said earlier. All right. So Alexandra's been double checking me on that regarding recording both in the cloud and on your computer. And apparently what she's finding is telling us that we have to choose one or the other. You probably cannot do both. That's unfortunate. And when you do it in the cloud, it will not record separate tracks. It only records the combined track. Look, if that's what you need to do it. We edit podcasts. Our audio engineers will edit the episode regardless of whether you have split tracks or not. But there's just a limit to some of the things they can do because they can't take out one of you if you talk at the same time without taking out both of you. So it's either a decision to cut something completely or leave it in completely at that point. So that's why you might want to record locally as long as your computer is stable and can handle that. I did have some strange things happen recently with recording Zoom where in the middle of a call, and this was not a podcast I was recording, it was just a Zoom call with a client, and we were recording it because it was sort of a bit of a tutorial type of thing, where Zoom crashed in the middle of me recording, and I had ended up having 3 different recordings that for this one session. Very unfortunate. I never really had that happen before, but what I found was my computer was almost out of hard disk space. And when your system resources get low like that, that's where you can run into certain tech challenges with the software and things don't work out quite how you want or expect them to be. So keeping your computer in top shape, in good health, so to speak, is highly recommended. when you sort of push the edge of the envelope or have an older computer that maybe is on some of its last legs, that's where you're going to run into other problems and challenges in your tech. At that point, I might move over to my phone if you got a newer phone. My phone is, not even 6 months old, and there's a great voice memo app on there, and there's a Zoom app. I got an adapter that will plug a USB microphone right into the iPhone. They have similar things for Android phones. So as a backup, you can always do that. In fact, we ran our whole office 2 days ago off of Wi-Fi little personal hotspots generated from our phones because our internet in the office went down a couple days ago. It was not ideal, but we limped along. It worked. So you can do a lot with your phones. Those are pretty powerful computers these days. All right. Well, I guess that's I'm going to wrap it up. Thank you all for attending. Any last minute questions, this is probably your last chance, but otherwise, thanks so much for being here. And I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thanks for participating. We do this every week. Keep in mind, if you're not subscribed to the email, if you're not getting the emails reminding you about this, or that there's one monthly reminder email, but you can get on this calendar of ours to be notified of every one of these because they occur once a week, but we've changed like the day of the week and the time of the day to give some people and can attend in the middle of the day. Others need later in the day. We're doing some weeks at different times to try and make sure everybody has the opportunity over the month to attend, depending on their unique schedule. So email alexandra@powderties.com if you have any questions about that. I'm sure those of you here live got it because you're here. Those of you watching the recording may want to reach out to Alexandra and make sure you're on the list and get the calendar invites to remind you. So I guess that'll do it. Thanks so much, everybody. We will talk to you next time. Signing off for today, this is Tom from Powder Ties and Feed Your Brand.